What if there are a set of fundamental laws that can explain why you can crack an egg open but not the opposite? Or how the egg you made for breakfast is cooked? Or why you feel a sudden jolt when you touch your hand in the pan? Luckily, we have the laws of thermodynamics, which are used to describe the relationship between different forms of energy. Let's start with the zeroth law, which states if two systems are in thermodynamic equilibrium with a third system, the two original systems are in thermal equilibrium with each other. This law can be explained mathematically. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Think of it this way. There are three water cups labeled A, B, and C. A and B are in thermal contact with each other and thus are in thermal equilibrium. C comes along and comes into thermal contact with B. Thus, B and C are now in thermal equilibrium. If A is in thermal equilibrium with B and B is in thermal equilibrium with C, A and C must also now be in thermal equilibrium. If I was finishing my physics homework and left the egg I cooked earlier on the kitchen table, it would eventually reach thermal equilibrium and reach room temperature. The heat from the hot egg flowed to its surroundings, or the molecules in the air, over time. This law also underlies that temperature is measurable and is a property of matter, and thus underlies the rest of the laws. Now moving on to the first law, also known as the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy can be converted from one form to another with the interaction of heat, work, and internal energy, but it cannot be created nor destroyed under any circumstance. We'll go back to that one later. The second law states that the state of entropy of the entire universe as an isolated system will always increase over time. The second law also states that the changes in entropy in the universe can never be negative. An interesting take on this first and second law is the idea of perpetual motion machines. These devices can do work indefinitely without an external energy source. It hypothetically would be able to power itself and perhaps even other machines. The problem? This machine cannot exist because it would only output the energy that was first inputted, and even then the inputted energy would eventually escape through friction and heat. The system would go back to an equilibrium state instead of going on forever and ever. And finally, the third law, which states that a perfect 100% pure crystalline structure at absolute zero or 0 Kelvin will have no entropy. This basically states that as the temperature approaches absolute zero, the entropy of a system approaches a constant minimum. It's incredible how these thermodynamic laws seem to be interacting with our universe and even themselves. Scientists have not yet experimentally reached absolute zero due to the second law of thermodynamics, since the object that is cooling to absolute zero would be taking in heat from its surroundings. Although these laws seem set in stone, scientists are still discovering our vast universe, and who knows if one of these laws needs to be changed in the future. However, just like entropy, our curiosity always seems to be increasing.